one. Ankh and Ma'at. You might see that Kemetic Ascension looks a little different today. We're coming to you from Philadelphia, where we actually assisted in the 40-day memorial for an ancestor that is actually very important to us, Ali Salahuddin. And so we're still in Philadelphia, but we truly wanted to continue to come to you for Kemetic Ascension. So let me say Ankh and Ma'at to you. I am so pleased that you have attended, that you've come in on a beautiful Sunday. And we would like to begin by welcoming you for a Kemetic Ascension on September 12th, 2021. And we want to hear, as we always want to hear, where you are in the world and how long you have been part of Kemetic Ascension. Please go ahead and give us a powerful shout out. Let us see where you are in the world and how long you have been part of Kemetic Ascension. And as I say that, let me say, my name is Hemneder-Ntepi Jabari Osaze, and I'm coming to you from Philadelphia.
And I'm Hemneder-Ntepi Anika, but also known as Mrkwti.
And so definitely we're hoping that what you'll do is you'll tell us where you are, because we want to know exactly in the world we are reaching you from. So please go ahead and just tell us where you are. We know that so many of you don't miss Kemetic Ascension, and that is so wonderful. So please go ahead and let us know where in the world you are. Do we have any responses yet?
Yes, we do. We have many responses.
Many?
Yes.
I guess they're used to already hearing us ask that question already, huh?
So we have Taharka Soul in the house. We have Sinette Cheryl from the DMV.
Go ahead. Ankh and Ma'at, Sinette Cheryl. Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at.
Shane the Watcher 616.
That's a new name.
Yes.
I don't think we've heard that one before.
Jehuti Ma'at Ra.
Judy Ma'at Ra coming to us from Canada.
Yeah.
Welcome, dear brother, one of the Shrine of Ma'at full members.
Neb and Kemet Spectrum Inc.
Neb and Kemet Spectrum Inc.
Yes.
That's a new name, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
We have Roddy Anderson from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Go ahead, go ahead.
We have our regular Tracy from Indianapolis.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Dee Dee Shoto, or Pearl from Mississippi. Or is that Pearl, Mississippi? That might be the location. Shane the Watcher's from Sacramento. He's been watching since 2017.
Okay. That's a nice long time.
We have Vonda from Greenville, South Carolina. And she says, new to this journey and a few months in.
Wonderful. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We hope that you'll find that the Shrine of Ma'at is the kind of community that you'll be comfortable in. And hopefully we'll be able to see you in person soon as things begin to open back up as well.
Eric McElroy is here. Deshron Balka.
Welcome, welcome.
One of our members, Sandra Arrington, one of our students.
Welcome.
Yes. Deshron Balker from Humboldt, Texas.
Humboldt, Texas. I don't know if I've actually heard anyone coming to us from Humboldt, Texas. Yeah. Have we? Mm-hmm. I know from Texas, but Humboldt, Texas? Humboldt, Texas. Yeah. Ah. Go ahead. Welcome. Welcome.
Yes. Abu Tahuti. Abu
Tahuti. Go ahead. Welcome. I don't know if you're coming to us from Brooklyn. Brooklyn is usually where he is, right? I don't know if you're coming to us from Brooklyn, but welcome. It's always good to actually see you.
We have David Witter, Cardiff, Wales, UK.
Wonderful.
Yes. We have the Schaefers in the house from Ghana.
Wow. Wow.
They've been helping us behind the scenes, doing some wonderful projects. So we're excited.
We have a lot to speak to you about.
Yes.
I've been excited with the things that you've been doing.
Yes. Are you on
I
screen
didn't
three
mean to
times
come
now?
into the screen. Okay, did you remove one?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay. We have Michael Assar from Canada.
Welcome, welcome, dear brother from just a little way away. Welcome.
And Jehutimas OG the fourth out in Harlem representing Hemsnu Jehutimas Keperura Ma'at for 5.5 years.
Wonderful. And you know, he's always in the house. He's been with us forever, since before the Shrine of Ma'at. So it's wonderful that you're there. Hope you're holding down Harlem while we're away.
Erusar Ankh Amun-Ra out in Dallas, Texas, watching for about 1.5 years.
Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at.
We have G. Morris Jones from Detroit, Michigan.
Wow.
And we also have Tia Hamilton from Detroit.
Do we usually get a lot of people from Detroit? I don't know if we do.
A few.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Detroit is certainly an area that has a very large contingent of our people, those people of African descent. And so it's good to always hear that you're in the house. Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Oh, and quick shout out to Exonet Tracy Twa'u for the donation. We appreciate that.
Ankh and Ma'at and Twa'u.
We have Ebron McKay in the house. We have Sen William Humphrey.
Welcome. Yes, welcome. Welcome, welcome. We have some chatting to do. We've been trying to move forward on some of the requests you've made, so we definitely have to talk with you about them now.
Tracy says she's moving to Philly, so that'll be.
Which Tracy is moving to Philly?
From Indianapolis.
Really? Oh, you'll be closer.
Yeah.
Ankh and Ma'at, that's wonderful.
Okay. Oh, and Eric McElroy Jr. is from LA and Brooklyn now.
Wow.
Can't wait to meet him.
Wow, let's do it.
Jeanette Olivia McGraw. Hey, welcome.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. One of our initiates. Yes. Welcome.
We have Brother Gaston Bryant out in Arizona.
And you know Brother Gaston is always with us. Ankh and Ma'at, Brother Gaston.
So that Denise Haywood, how are you?
Welcome.
Good to see you. Deshaun Marshall from Dallas, Texas. So Texas is in the house.
Texas is in the house today. That's really what you're saying. Texas is in the house.
Sanette Oye is here.
Welcome.
Sanette Tashi is here. Holding down Charlotte, North Carolina.
Go ahead.
And I think we have somebody from Kemetic here, I think. Who is that? Who's this yoga girl? Sound familiar to you?
Ankh and Ma'at Abutsashai. Ankh and Ma'at.
Ankh and Ma'at. We have someone then logged in as I Am Boss from St. Louis.
I see. Grand Rising. Welcome to you.
Yes, wonderful. Lorenzo Mel's Halito. Now, I think you sent us a message. Are you from Germany? And Halito, what does that mean? Tell us.
Yeah, I saw that Halito greeting.
Yeah.
We were just reading it before we got before we came on, pretty much.
We have completed initiate. Lady Het Davis.
Ankh and Ma'at.
Denver, Colorado.
One of our full members. How are you, Queen?
And Denise is from Trinidad and Tobago. We have Ramutef Gab in the house.
Ankh and Ma'at.
Good to see you again.
Denise Haywood, you're in Trinidad and Tobago? Or are you from Trinidad and Tobago? Because that would be the furthest place, no?
No, if we have Germany.
Oh, yes, and we're still waiting to hear whether San Lorenzo is in Germany. We have London in here already? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have some folks that are across the waters. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes. And Twa'u, Sanette Olivia, for your donation.
Yes, please. Dua, dua, dua. And I see Denise Haywood says she's good. That's wonderful. But where are you? Are you actually in Trinidad and Tobago, or are you actually from Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes. And William says Deanna's turning 21.
Wow. Has it been that long? Sentuti Forever, are you telling me that he's actually going to be 21? Wow, I didn't realize that.
Lorenzo,
can we please go ahead and send our dear young brother Dion so much myrrh and just pledge that the Neteru, we are asking the Neteru and the ancestors to continue to send him Seneb health, as we know that he had been struggling with the things that had occurred to him at the hands of the police. And so I want to say that the Shrine of Ma'at family is begging, is pleading, and also thanking the Neturu and the ancestors for allowing him to actually find himself in early manhood. How does that make you feel, Sen Tui Forever? Does that mean that you're feeling a little old now? Because your son is now 21. Akima'at.
Okay, we have Ian Dante from Martinsburg, is it West Virginia, who's been with us for a while, but just, I guess, coming back after a hiatus. So good to see you. Sinette Anna Rodriguez, welcome, welcome.
Akima'at.
Member of the Shrine. We have Black Skin.
Welcome, welcome.
And Sinette Denise Hayward says she lives in Trinidad and Tobago.
Wonderful. So you're coming to us from Trinidad and Tobago. Go ahead, Akima'at. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, folks, let's go ahead and say welcome to you all. Ankan Ma'at to you all. We are truly, truly, truly honored that you have chosen to spend part of your Sunday with us for Kemetic Ascension. We really, even though we are out of town, we wanted to make sure that we were able to gather with you. And so we're honored that you have chosen to be here with us. And we know that as we move really from one period to the next, that we're excited about the prospects of really moving into the fall, moving into the next season of Kemetic Ascension, and really moving forward with the life of the Shrine of Ad. We're excited. We hope that things will improve in terms of the pandemic, so we'll be able to see many more of you in person. And we're just so excited that you're here. We were able to actually spend time with two of our priests in Philadelphia. Thankfully, we were able to get to see Abu Ka, whose full name is Abu Ka'ani Mbes, who's affectionately known as Abu Ka. It was great to be able to see you. He's in holding down Philly for us. And then also the priest Abu Ames actually also made the journey to Philly to assist us with this wonderful ceremony for the now ancestor Ali Salahuddin. And we're also here with the Kemetic yoga master, who is he's underneath us in the hotel, right? So he's on doing his work. We're talking about that incredible friend and brother, Yasir Rahotep. So he's here actually, and hopefully after we finish today, we'll go and have some dinner and folks like that and things like that. And folks, we put out the call. It's strange for me to put it out here, but I'm going to because I think some of you are on. We put out the call. We're actually here in Philadelphia, and we thought maybe we would gather with some of the members of the Shrine of Ma'at and just go to dinner tonight. And so if you are here, that means you have our numbers. If you have our numbers, send us a text because we'd like to meet at around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and just gather since we have not seen our Philly family together for a little bit. And so if you're around, we would love to see you for dinner tonight so that we can see you in person. We've seen so many people over the cameras, and we've unfortunately had Google Meet and StreamYard and YouTube and Facebook as intermediaries. We'd love to see you in person. So please, if you are in the Philadelphia area tonight, September 12th, 2021, we would love to see you for dinner. Go ahead and let us know.
Okay, and Twa'u for a donation from Dion Lives. We appreciate you. And also from Andre Bryant. Twa'u, we appreciate both of you. And we see that we have Boots Merhert in the house.
Aboot Merhert, Ankan Ma'at.
And also another one of our regulars, Brother Jason Holmes is here.
Go ahead, send Jason Holmes.
And Lorenzo, we appreciate you. I put the email in the chat so you can go ahead and send us your song. We would love to hear it.
Wonderful. So I think that we should go ahead and continue with Kemetic Ascension. Do the things that you know we must do. And when we begin with that ceremony, that ritual, that sacred rite that was brought into its current form by our elder, by our great elder, Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samad Se Pata. Please send him myrrh and ankhs. Just put them upon his name so that he can continue to be the wonderful elder that he is. He gave us this ritual that we know as the opening of the way. And so before we do anything of importance, we begin with the opening. So what I'd like for you to do is to stand in what we know as a position of adoration. I'm going to come here and tilt the camera just a little bit so you could see me a little better. Let's see if Anika will join me. Can you see that we're doing this in a hotel room? A little awkward, a little awkward. It's here, it's behind me. So we'd like you to stand in the position of adoration. Go ahead and stand with your left hand forward, a little further forward than your right hand. Both palms will be exposed. And from here, what you'll do is you will also have your feet mirror the way that your hands are. Stride a little further forward, so your left foot is a little further forward. This is called the position of adoration. It's the position that our ancestors used for thousands of years to both give and receive divine energy. And so as we stand in the position of adoration, we're going to ask you to take a deep breath and then chant the word that is associated by our ancestors with everlasting divine life, known as Ankh. Take your breath.
Anetrak in Bethet.
Anetrak in Bethet.
Nuke in Bethet.
Nuke in Bethet. Anetrak Hapi.
Anetrak Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter.
Turn to the right.
Anetrak Serket.
Anetrak Serket.
Nuke Serket.
Nuke Serket. Anetrak Kebsenu.
Anetrak Kebsenu.
Nuke Kebsenu.
Nuke Kebsenu.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter. Anetrak Ast.
Anetrak Ast.
Nuke Ast.
Nuke Ast. Anetrak Amset.
Anetrak Amset.
Nuke Amset.
Nuke Amset.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter. Anetrak Neat.
Anetrak Neat.
Nuke Neat.
Nuke Neat. Anetrak Dwamutef.
Anetrak Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter.
Back to front.
Anetrak Newt.
Anetrak Newt.
Nuke Newt.
Nuke Newt. Anetrak Geb.
Anetrak Geb.
Nuke Geb.
Nuke Geb.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter.
Anetrak Shu.
Anetrak Shu.
Shu. Shu. Shu. Shu. Nuke Shu.
Anetrak Tefnut.
Anetrak Tefnut. 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 Nuke Tefnut. Twal Winter. Anetrak Paut in Titeru. Nuke Paut in Titeru. Anetrak Mbu in Titeru. Nuke Mbu in Titeru. Twal Winter. Dwa Winter. Dwa, 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 dwa. We are so honored. We are so pleased that you have joined us. We hope that you have done the opening of the way with us. You should know that we truly believe that this sacred ceremony is something that you ought to do whenever you are doing something important. Please recognize that this is not theater. We're expecting you to do this sacred ceremony along with us. And so we're honored that you've come. We're honored that you are gathering in peace and prosperity with us. And we hope that you are doing the opening the way before you do anything important. Before you go about your business, you should recognize that you are a divine being, capable of all things, absolutely a person, an entity imbued with power. And so the opening of the way allows us to do that.
I also just wanted to mention, I noticed that we have another person here from Ghana, Doris Johnson Brown. So I want you to try to see if you can connect with the Chafers who are out in Ghana. So if you try to get all family members to connect, just like we have several people here who are from Texas, get to know each other. You know, it really helps when you no longer feel like you're alone where you are. I know being part of this tradition, a lot of people have said that because there aren't shrines directly in their locations as of yet, they feel that they are doing everything on their own. So please reach out to the people that are on the stream and see if you can connect and even start doing these rituals together until we are able to open up a branch of our shrine in your location.
Right.
I know that we are working on our property in Ghana, and we have been in regular communication with the Chafers. So, see if you could try to reach out and help each other.
We are absolutely preparing now to expand the Shrine of Ma'at so that we will actually have Shrine of Ma'at locations all over the United States and even all over the world. And so having folks in a particular area that are communing with each other will help us make some decisions about where we should be. We truly believe that in order for us to allow the tradition of our African ancestors, the tradition of those Africans that gave civilization to the world, be a tradition once more that is familiar to all of the world's inhabitants, we must expand. It is not going to be good enough for us to simply come to you from Harlem. We should have groups of people that come to us, that come together, that actually hear the call of an ancient African foremother and forefather and do that work together. Was there something you wanted to say?
I just noticed that Taisha came into the room.
Oh.
So, Ankin Ma'at.
Ankin Ma'at, it's good to see you. Ankin Ma'at, Ankin Ma'at. So from here, what we usually do is we go into what is known as Hesi. And if you've been a regular a participant, a regular member of this gathering, Kemetic Ascension, you know that Hesi is the way that our African ancestors galvanize divine energy in power. It is often what we could consider chanting or singing. And so you should understand that those things that Africans do in spiritual forms are things that you will see come forward powerfully in the most ancient of days. We didn't just come into Christianity and do gospel. We were actually singing and chanting and recognizing the divine force in our universe through these manners for thousands of years before anyone had found themselves ensconced in the Abrahamic traditions. And so, what I'd like for you to do is chant along with us. Now, remember, we want to be able to bring you Hesi that you're going to be able to use in your life. So I think Anika was saying that she wanted to do a Hesi that we sort of haven't done in Kemetic Ascension in a while. It actually is a Hesi version of one of our prayers, a prayer that had been spoken in the Shrine of Ptah, our shrine of origin, for quite some time. And two of our Hesi masters, I think the person that really put it into Hesi form was Abu Kepra. But we know that we are so familiar hearing the voice of one of our sacred priestesses bring that Hesi together. You've heard us say the prayer that we often just call the Rupu, right? Rupu Nuku Amiku Kemam Keperu and Inter Hayu. It means I am a shining being of light, dwelling in the light of the Most High. Or you could translate it, I'm a shining being in delight. I am a shining being dwelling in light, created from the limbs of the Inter. That's the other way that it is sometimes translated. So how is it that folks are often folks often say it and folks often sing it? Let's hear the way that our Hesi masters put it together. They say, and this is how it goes. Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu in inter higher you ankadrasane. How are you doing it? You sing it differently?
Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu and inter hayu.
You just said it slightly differently, inter.
Yeah.
Then why are you shaking your head like I did it wrong? Come on now. Did you see? Y'all can see her on the screen this time. Usually it's just me and she's making strange faces to me. You don't see her. Today you can see her. Did you see her? Anyway, let's do it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu. And enter high Uncle Jasanet. Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu. And enter high Uncle Jasanet. One more time. Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu. And enter high Uncle Jasanet. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu. And enter high Uncle Jasanet. Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu. And enter high Uncle Jasanet. Rupu nuku amiku kemam keperu. And enter high Uncle Jasanet. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. I'm a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the lens of divinity. Uncle Jocelyn.
I missed that. Oh, yay. She does it so well.
So just know that we're hoping that you use all of these incredible Hesi in your life as well to do the work that you are meant to do. Did I just see someone saying they need a shrine in the UK?
Yes.
I think I saw that, right? Just know that we have no issue whatsoever coming to the UK. We would love to come to the UK. In fact, quiet as is kept, it's possible that Brother Jabari may be coming to the UK before the end of the year. I've gotten a request to come, and I might just come. It depends on whether it fits into the schedule. But know that we would love to be able to absolutely see a Shrine of Ma'at in the UK as well. So hopefully that will actually occur. And David Witter, what we should do is get you together with some of the other folks that are in the UK. So please shoot us an email. Shoot us an email at shrineofma'at.org. I knew she was going to put her email in there. You can even send it to me, which is I am Jed, D-J-E-D, Jed at shrineofma'at.org. So please send us an email so we can try to get some of you together so that we are able to create these nodes of the body of Ma'at so that we are together once more. So, and I see some folks saying that it's going to be stuck in their head forever. Wonderful. You love the English translation. The English translation is powerful. When you think about what you are saying, so many of us are unfamiliar with the Kemetic language now because it is an old language, a language that actually was removed from the pantheon of spoken languages some time ago. But when you're able to bring it together and reintegrate it, it's something very, very powerful happens, really. Um, and I see Jocelyn, I don't usually read the comments myself. I'm saying you've been doing some powerful research. Jocelyn, I would love to see more of your research. I've also been researching the origins of Christianity and its origin in Kemet. And so I would love to see what you've come up with. We should definitely chat about it. So please reach out. I'd love for you to go ahead and send an email to jed at shrineofma'at.org and we'll continue this conversation. So from here, I think that we should go into what we usually do. I see someone saying that you do the Kumra, Kumherura. Yes, that's a wonderful one too, right? There's some wonderful Hesi, I'm telling you. And Nico was mentioning the Chafers. The Chafers actually put together, I'll say it publicly because we are probably going to try to integrate some of what they've done into Kemetic Ascension. They've put together a beautiful rendition of it that is just amazing, and we can't wait for you all to hear some of the work they're doing. Um, when Anika played it for me, I was floored. I really was. It really is beautiful. So when we're able to bring our Hesi together in a way that is accessible to our people, is in beauty and in divinity, I think that so many more people are going to use Hesi in their lives to do this important work. You know that we have been living in the Western world, many of us, and we have been catching hell. Hesi is one of those tools that you should use so that you can do the work that you must do. And so I'm really pleased with the work the Chafers are doing. I'm so pleased to hear that so many of you are using Hesi. Please continue to use it in your life. So at this point, we'd like to go into what we call a word from the Sebayit. A word from the Sebayit. And you should know that as we go into the Sebayit, what we really want to do is get to a point where we are able to share the excellence, the wisdom of our Kemetic ancestors in a way that is accessible to you. And so today, I actually want to talk about the wisdom of the Merkuti text. This is a topic that I've spoken about here in Kemetic Ascension before. And I want you to recognize that the Merkuti text actually, in many ways, form some of the first sacred literature in the entire world. The Merkuti texts are actually those things that you should know our ancestors put into the universe as they were describing, talking about the power of our traditions. It is the world's oldest spiritual text. Somebody's thinking, not the Torah? No, this is much older than the Torah. Not the Bible? Well, the Bible actually is younger than the Torah. Not the Quran. The Quran is younger than the Bible and younger than the Torah. So you had better know that as we talk about the Merkuti text, we are talking about the oldest text in the world. What about the Mahabharata or the all of the Indian texts? No, much, much younger. And so when we look at the Merkuti text, one of the other things that you'll recognize is that it, in many ways, begins to describe the Kemetic tradition. And as you look at the description of the Kemetic tradition, you'll begin to recognize that so much of the modern world, so much of the traditions of those individuals who are in the Abrahamic traditions today, actually, they are really, really the offspring of the Kemetic tradition. And so I want to talk to you today about the wisdom in the Merkuti text and how they have influenced mortuary culture. Now, what does Brother Gerard mean when he talks about mortuary culture? I'm talking about the things that we do for those of the people that we love, those are the people that we revere, those are the people that we honor when they've made their transition and become ancestors. You could imagine it's one of the most important things that people do in the modern world. They celebrate those people who have gone before them, who have left them on the physical plane to go on to go into, to become part of the ancestral realm. And so, as we talk about this, recognize that you are seeing the origin of so many of those traditions. And as you look at this picture, you can't help but notice that on the left, you are seeing something that looks like a pile of rubble. But if you look at the base, can you see that you can tell that it actually was a Merkut, that thing that is sometimes called a pyramid today? Now, you might notice that I'm using the word pyramid very sparingly, and that's because I actually want to take that word away from your usage. The word pyramid seems to be one of the terms that the Greeks were using for a small wheat cake that they used to put on the fire and eat. And so, because those little cakes were conical in form, when they came to Kemet, they actually saw these magnificent structures that we called either the Mer or the Merkut. And when they saw them, they absolutely said, hey, that looks a lot like the little wheat cake that we eat. And so the term pyramid actually became a term that was used by the Greeks and is now used in the modern world today. If you are calling these incredible ancestral resurrection machines by the name of a small Greek wheat cake, you are in trouble. You are in the forest and you truly need to be guided out of it. And so we are going to call them the Merkuti. We're going to call them the Mer. So as you look at it, you can see that the Merkut of Unas actually is that thing that looks like it's in rubble today, but it was certainly not in rubble before. It was a magnificent structure, but it was put into decrepit condition by those Europeans and those Arabic people who came into the realm much later. Now, as you enter into that structure, you can see that this sacred text is actually emblazoned all over the walls, all over the ceilings. This is the world's first spiritual text. And so understand that we are actually looking at the beginning of world spirituality. So, yes, there's some questions. Please go ahead and share.
So, what does Merkuti translate to? Is it love? Merkut itself, it means pyramid. Merkuti is plural. And Mer would be the word for love. So even though Mer is the same for pyramid in some instances, they're two separate words.
Right. I don't believe that they are necessarily related to each other. They're just words that sound similar. And so you should understand that there have been lots of conversations around what it actually means. And I want to say to you that so many individuals have tried to come to a better understanding of what it is. And there have just been, really what we're doing is we're still continuing to have debates on what it means. There is one. Go ahead.
Merkuti would be two pyramids. Merkutu would be plural.
We can say Merkutu. Yeah, I think that is actually the best way to describe it.
And Mer could be pyramid by itself. Merkut means pyramid with a tomb. There's a pyramid tomb. So Merkuti or Merkut would be pyramid tomb.
And as you look at this structure, I want you to then look at the next image. What are you seeing? What do you think you're seeing? What do you think that I am showing you here? Isn't it quite unusual? What do you think you're looking at?
To the right.
Say again?
You mean to the right?
To the right? Okay. No, I'm talking about on the next slide. Okay. Yeah, you're controlling the slides, right? I'm sorry. I should have said I was going. Did I go in here twice? Sorry. I thought I was already in here, but then anyway, I'm not getting back into StreamYard. You go ahead and do that. I was trying to get in to make sure that you were showing the slides that I'm talking about the next slide of this, right? As you look at that, what are you noticing? Can you see that there's a Merkut there? Do you notice that it has that symbol known as the Herube Hudet above its doorway? Who are those individuals that are sitting there?
Olivia says it's a Sebket.
Yes, you're seeing a Sebket that is being placed on the front of a Merkut. Can you see that? Where do you think this is?
Sinet Fata says it's a grave.
A grave? Okay, yes, certainly it's a tomb, right? Someone's remains are there.
Then it says I'm looking at plagiarism.
Yeah, I think that it's fair to say it's plagiarism. I wish that there was a stronger word than plagiarism, right?
There was actually a question probably related to the slide prior.
Please go ahead.
For the words on the walls and what they meant.
Yes, you should know the Merkutu texts they're extensive. We're talking about over 600 passages. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the words today. And I should say to you, there's no way that I can talk to you about the whole text in one session. But understand that the greater meaning of the Merkuti text is it is a text that has been structured to speak of the immortality of the human soul, the power of the human, and our ability to be all powerful, so powerful that we can literally conquer death. That is what these texts portend. And so I'm hoping that you will read much more of it. I know that the full members of the Shrine of Ma'at, very soon we're going to start reading it from cover to cover, just as we are now in our Sebe reading group, going through all of the Reyu, Pert, and Haru and Ger. We're going to read this text together and come to a stronger understanding of the entire thing. As you are a high-level practitioner, I really hope that you're reading it, regardless of whether you're a member of the shrine or not. And so take a look at this building.
There's a lot of comments.
Yes, go ahead. More comments. Share, please share.
So Ian Dante says this is an American copy of Merkuti.
Mm.
And then Ismet says, I would say the structure is blasphemy or mocking.
Mm.
Right.
Other comments?
Yes. None of that belongs to the Greeks at all. Ismet Anna says this is Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn.
That Anna Rodriguez said that?
Yes.
Sinet Anna Rodriguez is one of the ringers. She has been with the Shrine of Ma'at for a long time, so she has seen this before.
And Ian Tassi said that this is the story of the lady who put her husband back together. He's wondering.
Are you referring to Ast putting Asar back together?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, let me just go ahead and build off of what Sinet Anna said. This is, as you might be able to see, above the doorway, this is known as the Van Ness Parsons Mausoleum. And it was built in 1932. It is not in Kemet. For those of you who conjecture that it might be in the West, might be in the United States, you are correct. This is in Brooklyn, just as Anna was saying, in Greenwood Cemetery. There are several Merkuti in Greenwood Cemetery, and they were not structured. They were not built. They were not erected for individuals who are part of the Kemetic tradition. They were erected, I think every single one of them has been erected for people who are of European descent, people who are in the Christian tradition. In fact, as you look at the Van Ness Parsons Mausoleum, can you see that on the left side of that sebket, you see a statue of a Tamhu, of a Western, of a white Yeshua or Jesus? And then on the right of that entryway, you see Mary holding a baby Jesus. And then when you look further to the left, you'll even see that there is a Madonna and child with Mary suckling Jesus. Can you see that all of these images, all of them, are images that found themselves coming forth most powerfully and coming forth first in the Kemetic tradition, but they have been usurped by the Christian tradition. And I know that there are some of you who are probably thinking, Jabari, what is wrong if people of a newer tradition reference an older tradition? That is not what's happening here. What you have to recognize is the Western tradition has taken, has borrowed, has pilfered from the African traditions, and not only not given credit for its origin, then they speak disdainfully of these ancient African traditions. That is theft. That is plagiarism. That is pilfering. That, I have said, is the world's greatest example of identity theft. This is why we must look at these and call them what they truly are. And as you look at it, can you see that you see Jesus and Mary out front of a Merkuti? They even have these strange looking Heru statues that the Greeks called the Sphinx. There are two of them there. Can you see them? Very, very interesting structure in Brooklyn. Anika, did you want to say something?
Sen Humphrey says the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses burial is Charles Russell.
Yes, this one is not that burial. I'm not sure if that's what he's saying. But yes, Charles Taze Russell is also buried in the Merkuti. The founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, the person that actually created the Watchtower. You know those texts that they like to give us so often? In fact, you should know that when they come to Anika and I, by the way, they don't ring our doorbell anymore. I still see them on the block. They don't ring our doorbell anymore. The word has gone out, leave those people alone. Why? Because guess what? When they come and they offer us their text, we say, we would love to take your text. Please take some of ours. And they say, oh, no, I can't take that. So wait a minute. Are you telling me that you want me to take your text, but you can't read mine? Once we did that, they stopped coming because they were afraid that what we were going to give them was going to be influential. And so that was really, really disturbing. So take a look at the next image here. You're actually seeing an image of Greenwood Cemetery. And in this section of the cemetery that was created in 1838 in Brooklyn, in fact, it's pretty old. Greenwood Cemetery is so old that Brooklyn was not part of New York City at the time. Did you know that Brooklyn doesn't become part of New York City until 1898? So this was really the city of Brooklyn is where this was occurring. And as you look at it, you're going to see all of these tombstones. And in the distance on the left, and even in the further distance on the right, you'll see a few tekken, also other symbols of the Kemetic tradition. But I'm not going there yet. Take a look at these tombstones. They are absolutely identifiable in the Western world. You're actually seeing that they're a slab of stone. They are rectangular primarily, but then they have a rounded top. You know that that is one of the things that makes tombstones very, very iconic. We recognize them, right? Because of the way that they are rendered. I want you to also recognize that that as well, those as well, are things that come from the Kemetic tradition. And I think the next slide doesn't actually go to it. I go to the Tekken next, don't I?
Yeah.
As you look at that, you'll actually see that you'll also see other Westerners that use the Tekkenu very frequently. You're going to see Alexander Hamilton. Yes, that Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton buried in what looks like a squat Merkuti or Tekken. Maybe this is meant to be a Ben stone, but this is right in Lower Manhattan. Alexander Hamilton is buried in Lower Manhattan. Yes, the name Hamilton from the hit musical. Buried in Lower Manhattan and buried in what could either be called a squat Mer or a Tekken. Then you see John D. Rockefeller. Yes, that robber baron, buried in Westview Cemetery in Cleveland. You can see he has an extremely tall Tekken. And then look on the right and you'll see Alfred Nobel. Yes, the Nobel from the Nobel Prize. He's actually buried in Northern Cemetery in Sweden in a Tekken. So you have to recognize that some of the most powerful Europeans in the world were trying to connect themselves, trying to identify themselves with the traditions of ancient Africa. That is what you are seeing. Take a look at the next one. You'll actually see the largest Tekken. I think it's more appropriate to call it a false Tekken in the United States, one of the largest in the world. You are seeing what is known as the Washington Monument. And the Washington Monument actually was built for George Washington. It is, as you can imagine, a symbol of the resurrection of George Washington. And you should know that the United States likely decided that this would be a fitting monument to George Washington because they are trying to describe him as the first king of the United States, the first ruler of the United States, just as the Tekken is a symbol of the first ruler of Kemet, the mythological, the symbolic ruler Asar. And so this is why you are seeing this used for George Washington. When I go inside, when I went inside, I noticed this actually also above the elevator, an image of Washington with a Heru Behudet right above the elevator. And I remember going to this monument as a child and asking the person who was giving the tour if this was a symbol that came from Africa. And the person on the tour, the person that led the tour said no. And he said it so bluntly and so harshly that everyone stared at me. And as they stared at me, They actually recognized that I was saying something that was uncomfortable to them. And so they simply ignored me harshly. And unfortunately, my teacher, not knowing enough information, was unable to defend me. Now, perhaps the person there was so harsh because he, knowing that this was a symbol from ancient Kemet, he didn't want to recognize that Kemet was in Africa. That's probably why he was so harsh. That's probably why he, if I had said if this is a symbol from ancient Egypt, maybe he would have agreed, especially with me using the Greek term for that land, not Kemet, but Egypt. But saying, is this in Africa, which is a factual statement that cannot be rebutted, is not something that should be controversial. But as long as those, the younger people on the planet, are trying to misrepresent who they are and who we are, these things become controversial. Now, as you look at the Washington Monument, I'm showing you an aerial view. You have probably never seen this aerial view. Do you notice something about where it is situated? I'm talking about the pathways that were created around the Washington Monument. Do you notice something about it? Any answers? Do you notice that it is actually coming forth from a symbol? Do you see the symbol? It's not exactly the symbol, but it is absolutely clearly intending to be a rendition of the symbol. What are we seeing? Can you notice that this is that it sits at the middle of the intersection of two circles or two circular things? And in that intersection, it creates an almond shape item. Does anyone recognize that symbol? No answers, huh?
Well, we have Ian Dante says geometry.
Certainly sacred geometry, absolutely.
Sinette Olivia is focused on the water body outside of it.
Mm.
Fake Nile or Happy.
Yes, what water body is that?
Sandra says she thinks it's an ankh.
She thinks it's an ankh.
Sinette Olivia says it looks like an owl.
Looks like an owl, okay.
Jason Holmes says the Eye of Ra.
The Eye of Ra. Well, first of all, let me answer.
Says, isn't it the flower of life?
Oh, it's not quite the flower of life, but it is a segment of the flower of life. By the way, that water body is the Potomac River. And I know how you said it's the fake Nile. In some ways, it is the body of water that these Europeans tried to associate with the Hapi. Absolutely. The Hapi River in Kemet.
Brittany says Pisces.
Hmm.
And Sen Humphrey says the symbol of the Vesica Pisces.
Oh, can you see that
Brittany.
some? Can you tell that the initiates of the Shrine of Ma'at are ringers already?
Olivia says it's the Potomac.
Yes, that's the Potomac River. Take a look at the next image, and you're going to see what is known as the Vesica Pisces.
Yeah, the Herobate dead on this one.
Do I? Yeah, and then again, I already looked at the Herobate dead. I'm sorry. I'm not controlling my slides, so it's a little awkward today. But can you actually see this is the Vesica Pisces? Now, what does Vesica Pisces mean? Well, you might know that Pisces seems to be a reference to Pisces. So what is the Pisces? What is the Pisces? Pisces, in this instance, means fish. Vesica is almost like vessel. It is the word for bladder. So this is called the bladder of the fish. And you should recognize that it is sacred geometry. Why is it sacred geometry? Well, I'm going to do this so quickly that some of you are probably not going to catch all of it. You do know that Kemetic Ascension is recorded, right? That you can listen to this again until it sinks in, until you better understand it. So take a look at it. First, I want you to recognize the first fundamental symbol you are seeing, a circle. A circle is how many degrees? 360. Isn't 360 degrees a good description for all of the things that occur in the universe? Because it is a complete geometric symbol that actually allows you to, if you were at the center of the circle, you'd be able to turn in all of the degrees and see all things in existence. So in some ways, the circle is a symbol that represents all of existence. But if it represents all of existence, I want you to recognize that in order to create a circle, you must have a central point. If the circle is all of existence, who would stand at the central point and view all of existence, all of creation, all of those manifestations, womb manifestations of the world? Who would be standing at the center of the circle? You nodded. Did someone answer?
Well, I just see and Dante said a womb.
Yes. Well, the individual, the entity that would stand at the center of the circle would be that divine force. Because in many ways, the point that is at the center of the circle is the circle. Let me ask you a question. If you put a compass, you know, that device that is those two sticks that are together, one of them might have a writing instrument on them, and you can draw a circle. If you put down your point, your central point for the circle, and you start drawing the circle, and then you, by mistakenly, your compass shifts and you're at a different point, can you draw the same circle? The answer is no. So in many ways, the circle is dictated by the central point. The circle is the point. The point is the circle. So this is why this is a symbol of the divine. This is why this is the symbol of Ra. This is why even the glyph for Ra has the circle and the point in it. Well, let's think for a second. If you draw two circles that actually share the same point in a very interesting way, they have different center points, but that one circle actually bisects with the central point of the next circle, something interesting will be created. And in fact, they are, if they bisect each other's main points, they will be identical circles and they will share a radius. Notice a radius is like a ray. The radius is the creation from the central point of the rest of the circle. I call it a radius because I want to remind myself that that term radius is an echo of the power of the divine, or Ra. And so when these two circles share its radius, when both of those circles share as the point on the radius, each other's main point, you will see that you will create in the center the Vesica Piscis. Yes, 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 yes. That's powerful, by the way. That's powerful how she said that. Ra di us. In many ways, it is Ra gives power, and that's exactly what the radius does. Right. Look at it. Can you see that you also create an equilateral triangle inside, which is often considered another symbol of the divine? Do you know that if you continue to draw circles, that were identical, sharing the same size radius and sharing the central point, you would be able to draw, listen to what I'm saying, every other geometric symbol in existence. This is how geometry is the finger of the divine. This is how geometry shows us that in many ways, mathematics gives us a unique understanding of the operation of the laws of the divine in our physical universe. And it is a powerful, powerful thing. Now that you recognize the Vesica Piscis, can you notice that it is drawn in many places? If you continue to draw the Vesica Piscis on and create circles, you will create the flower of life. That central image is the flower of life. Can you see it there? You'll also notice as you look at many images, Western images of Jesus or Yeshua, he is often depicted in this Vesica Piscis. It is a sacred geometric symbol. And they're not telling you that it is a sacred geometric symbol. They do not tell you that it is not a Christian symbol, not a Jewish symbol, and certainly not a Muslim symbol. it actually has its origins in Kemet. And if you look at the image on the right, you're going to see two of these symbols drawn, and you can barely see them. Why can you barely see them? Because in actuality, they are drawn in a temple that today is consecrated to Asar. Usually people call it the Osirian today. The Osirian is what it's called. It's a temple consecrated to Asar, and part of the temple was intentionally constructed to be underwater. Why water, Jabari? Because water is an analogy for the creation of all things. Because all things must begin in water. All things begin in the flood. If you're not familiar with this, it's probably because you have been told the story of the Abrahamic traditions and they have told it to you literally. I know people who are in Christianity, who are in Judaism, who are in Islam, who are still searching for a world flood or a flood someplace in the world because that's how the Bible told them it exists. It exists. It is an analogy because all life begins in the flood. If you are confused about this, you ought to go to your mother and ask her how you came into existence. All things come in the flood. And so that is why this temple was constructed that way. You should know it's controversial to say that the Vesica Pisces, it was controversial to say that the Vesica Pisces was a symbol that is Kemetic, because there are those who argue that this drawing on the ceiling of the Osirian, of the temple consecrated to Asar, actually was done during the time the Greeks were in existence. And so I know that people were arguing for a long time that this is not a Kemetic symbol. And then we found this. Look at the next slide. This is a cosmetics vase. This is a wooden cosmetics vase. And you might not really be able to see the symbol on the top clearly, can you? Can you see it clearly? It is, in fact, the Vesica Pisces. And it was from the tomb of Hat-Nefer. This is one of the relatives of Hatshepsut. And so I want you to recognize that this is critically important because it shows that the Vesica Pisces is, in fact, a Kemetic symbol. And I want to tell you something else. The folks in the museum where this is right in Manhattan, in the Metropolitan Museum. They have not even acknowledged that it is there. They simply say there are concentric circles drawn on here. That's what they say. Family, I want you to recognize that we made this discovery. I was leading a tour in the museum with Yasir Rahotep, the Kemetic yoga master, and a sister by the name of Palea. And I had been in the museum dozens of times, in fact, hundreds of times. I'm leading the tour, and she looks at the cosmetic box and notices something that I have overlooked. She says, "Isn't that the symbol?" And I said, "What symbol are you referring to?" She did not know the name, but her eyes were sharpened. Even though she didn't know the name of the symbol, she recognized that she had seen something of importance. And that is when we were able to recognize that this is the earliest depiction of the Vesica Pisces, the earliest depiction of the flower of life. It is certainly a Kemetic symbol because it comes from Hat-Nefer. And look at when Hat-Nefer lived. This is before you can argue the Greeks had any knowledge of it. Take a look at how this flower of life exists. Can you actually see this symbol of Ra, the image of Ra, with that resplendent sun on his head, with the snake coiled around the sun? In fact, that snake sometimes is depicted as Sekhmet. But take a look at this. Here are the glyphs for Ra I think this is in Gardner's book, Anika. And you'll actually see that Ra is depicted with that central point in the circle. I want you to recognize that your Kemetic ancestors were saying that the power of the power of divine creation could be described not just as this falcon with the sun on his head, but they were also making a reference to sacred geometry, something that only the Greeks are given credit for. You must understand that you are seeing The fact that your Kemetic ancestors had the most erudite of understandings of the creation of the cosmos, and that there are other younger people who have taken credit for it. Is that not what we're saying when we talk about the Merkuti text? When we talk about how the mortuary sciences occur? That's precisely what we are saying. And I'm going to say to you that there are those people sometimes who are probably overzealous Christians that don't even recognize that they are using symbols that are not Christian to describe the divine. Take a look at the next image. You will see this symbol everywhere. Sometimes people just call it the Jesus fish. By the way, I don't even know if I have time to talk about the Greek letters that are in the first fish. What are those letters? You should know that they are the letters that are in the word for Yeshua. That's what it is. That's what that is. I, X, phi, theta, um, uh, uh, man, what are sigma is the last one. That's not a lambda, is it? Is that the capital lambda? Lambda sigma? Yeah. I want you to recognize, I should know this. You should know that these are the symbols of that were connected to Jesus, but know that this fish is nothing more than the Vesica Piscis. Notice they depict it as a fish, and the Vesica Piscis is often called the bladder of the fish. That's what Vesica Piscis means. And so there are those that do not understand that this is not a Christian symbol. And you'll notice that this symbol has found its way into the Western world. Look at the rest of these symbols. It's in the CBS logo. Are you showing this? It's in the CBS logo. It's in the Gucci logo. I know some of y'all love Gucci. Did you recognize that they are drawing on an ancient African symbol? It's in the TWA logo. I don't think TWA exists anymore, but it was one of the United States' most most popular airlines, and it's in the MasterCard logo. Did you realize that this is a depiction of the MasterCard logo? And of course, when you look at Gaiam, that company that is connected to wellness and to yoga and to meditation, they use as their symbol the Vesica Piscis.
So I was wrong. That symbol was epsilon, not lambda.
I thought it was, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So take a look at the other symbols. I want you to look at this individual as we talk about the Tekket. Of course, you are seeing a painting of George Washington. George Washington was not just the general, one of the generals that fought in the American Revolution, but he was also a Mason, also an enslaver, also that person that has so much folklore rendered about him that you would think that he's even a person that cannot lie. How in the world could he not be? They tried to make him so pure that he cannot lie when he did nothing more than enslave Africans. And in fact, as we sit here in Philadelphia, you should know that Philadelphia was one of the country's first capitals and a very important city in the early United States. The Declaration of Independence was signed here. George Washington lived here. And during the time that he was here, Philadelphia was a place that you were not supposed to own enslaved people. So what did George Washington do as he lived here? Would that mean that he would just keep his enslaved people at his home in Virginia at Mount Vernon? Is that what you think he would do, and say, well, I'm in Philadelphia, and because there are no enslaved Africans there because of the laws of that state, I'm not going to have enslaved people there? Wouldn't it have been hypocritical enough for him to keep enslaved people in the South and then come north and not have his enslaved people? That would mean he had to do his own work, by the way. Do you think that this enslaver would do his own work? Guess what he did? He used a loophole in the law. He would bring enslaved Africans to Philadelphia for a period of time. And by law, if enslaved Africans were in Philadelphia after a certain time, they would actually become free. So what did George Washington do? He would have his enslaved Africans here for some time, and before they had been here too long, he would send them back to Mount Vernon and then just bring them back so they could remain enslaved. We should know that George Washington is not seen as someone that we should see with reverence. In fact, he was an enslaver. And from the African perspective, that makes him evil. That makes him an enemy. Let's call it what it is. But you had better know that George Washington, being an enslaver, still was aware of all of the things that were able to filter to him as a Western Mason from the Kemetic tradition. Take a look at the next image. Can you see him standing in a version of the position of adoration? How many similarities can you see him in this Masonic form that come from your Kemetic tradition, Kemetic? How many can you count? I count 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4. Do you notice that he's not only standing with his hands in adoration? Do you not notice that he's not only standing with his left foot forward, even though his right foot is at a right angle, because he's trying to represent the right angle of masonry? But can you see that his apron is supposed to simulate the hepsa, the Kemetic kilt, I'll call it for now, so you know what I'm talking about, that the Kemetic people wore? That's what that Masonic kilt is supposed to be. That apron is supposed to replicate Kemetic clothing. How about the collar around his neck? That collar around his neck is meant to replicate Kemetic clothing. We call that broad collar the usek. Recognize that these Western people have stolen from us. And as you move forward, here we are, the tombstones again. Here we are, the tombstones again. I want you to simply look at the similarities. Take a look at the stele on the left, and you will see the Kemetic slab that was often consecrated outside of the tombs of your Kemetic ancestors, Kemetic. And it spoke of their divine acts as they made their way into the Hall of Ma'ati, the place for those people who had practiced Ma'at. And this is where the structure, the origin of the tombstone has its origin. How about more? Let's do more. Take a look at these statues of angels. Do you notice anything interesting about them? First off, when you notice that in the Bible, in the Torah, we do not hear descriptions of women with wings, you had better understand that the reason why these are all women depicted with wings is because they are recognizing the large number of Kemetic intert, the Kemetic divine women who actually had wings. This is an echo from your ancient African tradition. And look at their arms. Has anyone mentioned that they're standing with crossed arms?
Yeah, but someone looked at the pillars from the previous images and mentioned that they were those of Jacine and Boaz.
Yes. You're talking about from the image with George Washington. Mm-hmm. I wish I could do a full piece on the Masonic symbols. That was just a taste. Mm-hmm. That was just a taste. Jabari did a lecture to the well, these are black folks, to the Prince Hall Masons on the origins of the tradition in the Kemetic tradition, and they were absolutely enthralled with the conversation. But I want you to take a look at these angels here and look at their crossed arms, and then you will note that you are seeing a reference to the crossed arms of Kemet. You are seeing one of the golden devices of that king known as Tutankhamun, with his crossed arms of the with the hook and the flail, the crook and the flail, known as the Heka and the Keka. So take a look at this image of the Merkuti of Teti. And as you look at it, you are seeing that this, the world's earliest spiritual text, earlier than the Quran, earlier than the Bible, earlier than the Torah, certainly also earlier than the Mahabharata or the Ramayana or all of the Hindu texts, Understand that you are seeing the world's first recorded spiritual text. And as you see this rendition in the Merkuti of Teti coming forth at a time that is nearly 5,000 years ago, you are seeing how this tradition, in its most powerful form, has actually come into the modern world. And you, African, have gotten no credit for it. Shouldn't you at least read the text? Shouldn't you at least be familiar with this earliest text? Well, let's read you some of it. Here is some of the wisdom of the Merkuti text. I'll read this. This is utterance 373, and it's on the antechamber on the west wall. This one is from the Merkut of Unas. Take a listen. No, I'm sorry, the image is from Unas, but the translation is from Teti. Take a listen. Oh ho, rise up, O Teti. Collect your head, collect your bones, gather your limbs, shake the earth from your flesh, take your bread that rots not, your beer that sours not. Stand at the gates that bar the common people. The gatekeeper comes out to you. He grasps your hand. By the way, notice you're standing at gates and the gatekeeper greets you. Obviously, we're talking about going into heaven. And you have been told that that story, that mythological symbolism was used for St. Peter. This is thousands of years before that story. Let's continue. The gatekeeper comes out to you. He grasps your hand, takes you into heaven to your father Geb. He rejoices at your coming, gives you his hands, kisses you, caresses you, sits you before the spirits, the imperishable stars. The hidden ones worship you. The great one surrounds you. The watchers wait on you. Barley is threshed for you. Emmer is reaped for you. Your monthly feasts are made with it. Your half-month feasts are made with it, as ordered done for you by Geb, your father. Rise up, O Teti, you shall not die. As you look at this section, you are seeing the description of the universal nature, the immortal nature of the human soul. And you are hearing how Teti goes into Taseket Ma'at, the place for those who have practiced Ma'at. You are hearing that his body has not rotted. In fact, his offerings have not rotted. It even says, shake the earth from your flesh, almost like you've been buried and you're coming out of the grave, shaking off the dirt. And then you are hearing that you are greeted and go to your father Geb, Geb being the image of the divine power of the earth. But you become one of the imperishable stars. And all of those things are given to you. What are these things, barley and emmer? They're both grains, but what are they really saying? They're saying that an offering has been made to you. And this is one of the reasons you are an immortal star. In fact, they're even telling you that you should have an ancestral ceremony when? Every month and every half month. That's what this is telling you. That your ancestors continue to live because those who remember them pay homage to them, pay offerings to them. In fact, they honor their complete works and complete their incomplete works. This is what we must all do for the ancestors. I want you to recognize that with this conversation this week, we will move into next time a description of how to honor our ancestors, a topic that Anika and I have certainly been thinking about considerably in the period that we're in, a period where we are celebrating an elder who is very important to us, Ali Salahuddin, and we're also celebrating another ancestor that was critically important to us, and Ali Salahuddin is the one that introduced us to him. We're talking about that incredible ancestor, Renoko Rashidi. And so I want to say to you that it is at this time that we must remember those elders, those ancestors, that we must actually prepare barley and emmer wheat for them, that we must prepare offerings for them, that we must make our sacrifice for them, that we must remember them. at the very least every month and every half month. This is what our ancestors did, and this is why they continue to live on in excellence into eternity. These are the traditions of our African ancestors. And you, African, who are reclaiming your traditions, who are recovering your names, who are seeking for the image of the ancestors, must do as your ancestors did when they were at the forefront of human civilization. We ask you to pray, to honor your ancestors, and read the text that they wrote. I say to you, Anken Ma'at, Shemen Ma'at, go forth in balance. The divine force in me creates the divine force in you. 12. Anika, can you please lead us in our final affirmation?
Sure. So usually I would stand and do this, but because of the location, I'm going to ask that you stand if you're possible, if you're able to do so, in the pose of adoration, and we will close with our oldest prayer, written in the Reu Pertem Herunger, also known and misnomered by the Book of the Dead, what we call the coming forth by day from night. So if you could please repeat after me, we will say the Amasu. Amasu in Pa Inter.
Amasu in Pa Inter.
Sauksu.
Sauksu.
Emetra.
Ementra.
En Pa Inter.
En Pa Inter.
Autu.
Autu.
Aura.
Aura.
Maketi Pa.
Maketi Pa.
Herura.
Herura.
Give yourself to the One Most High.
Give yourself to the One Most High.
Keep yourself daily for the divine.
Keep yourself daily for the divine.
And do it tomorrow.
And do it tomorrow.
Just as you did it today.
Just as you did it today.
Twa Winter.
Twa Winter.
Thank you to the divine.
Thank you to the divine.
And thank you to all of you.
Twa Twa Twa. Thank you so much. Please remember that the work that we do still requires assistance. We want to say dua for all of your donations. Please go ahead and make donations if you are able to, because it is how we are able to continue to do this work, remembering our ancestors and moving forward their traditions. You can make donations via Cash App at $Shrine of Ma'at and on PayPal. You should just go to jed@shrineofma'at.org or ma'at@shrineofma'at.org, and you'll be able to make a donation there. And of course, all of your stars on Facebook are also appreciated. One of the things that you can do, even if you don't have dollars, you can go ahead and share. Please share these sessions with those of you that you know should actually be here. Those who also, just as you, hear the echo, hear the call of your ancient African ancestors. Twa'u, and we say go forward in peace with the rest of your Sunday. We'll see you soon.
Twa'u.
Shalom.